Welcome to today's live chapter reading of Unlikely to Tell, a Parker Lane novel number 4 by Olivia Sherwood. Chapter 1. Brody Cooper let out a sigh and stared at the house in front of him. Rickety carport that looked like a small Oklahoma gust would send it crashing to the ground. Crooked white shutters in need of a cleaning. Old work boots on the front porch. About the only thing that had changed in his childhood home was the navy blue porch swing. Instead of hanging from the rafters as it was when Brody was a kid, the old swing was now sitting on the concrete of the porch. His only guess was the chain holding it had finally given up the fight. When Brody Cooper walked across the graduation stage at Parker High School almost 17 years ago, he expected never to return to his small hometown unless it was to visit his dad and sister on holidays and special occasions. But here he was. If only his coworkers in New York City could see him now. They'd definitely be having some laughs at his expense. He wanted to bash his head against the steering wheel of his rented Ford Focus at the turn his life had taken. Pun intended. Brody finally got out of the car, shivering in the frigid Oklahoma wind, and grabbed his bags out of the trunk. Hearing the door of the car slam, his dad walked out onto the porch and squinted his eyes against the setting sun behind Brody's back. Shielding his face with his hands, his dad called out, "Can I help you?" Brody took a deep breath before letting it out and squaring his shoulders. "Hey, Dad, it's me." His dad's face broke into a grin, crinkling his eyes in the corners. For the first time ever, his dad's weathered skin from spending years in the sun was starting to hint at his age. "Well, well, well. Of all the people I expected to be in my driveway, it wasn't you, kid. You told me you weren't making it home for Thanksgiving. To what do I owe the pleasure?" "Change of plans. I haven't been home in a while, and I figured it was time to meet my niece," Brody said. There was no way he was going to tell his dad the real reason he was home. He knew his dad would figure it out eventually. He just wanted some peace before the Inquisition began. "Breck's been sending me pictures of little Miss Emma. She's too cute to pass up. I had some time off from work. Thought I might stay home for a little bit. Catch up with everyone and make sure my niece knows who I am." "It's about time you made it down to see her. I told Brecken I thought for sure you'd be here for the birth of her first baby." And there it was. The guilt trip Brody knew was going to come. At least his dad got it off his chest now instead of waiting until he had an audience to do so. "I've been really busy," he said, "with work and everything. Or lack thereof." Brody followed his dad up the steps of the porch of the house he'd grown up in and walked inside. It hadn't changed one bit. Same bachelor pad with sports memorabilia on every available surface. Worn furniture all facing the gigantic flat screen television. The only thing different was all the baby gear in the middle of the shag carpeting. His niece was laying in some sort of fancy baby rocker in the middle of it all, sucking on a big green pacifier, her doe eyes peering up at him. "Well, aren't you a cutie?" he said softly, rubbing her silken black hair. "Can you talk yet?" His dad laughed. "Talk? She can barely hold her head up, you knucklehead." "They don't start talking until they are a year old, and even then they only say one or two words you can understand." Brant shrugged his shoulders. "How am I supposed to know that? It's not like I've been around babies a whole lot." "You were around your sister when she was a baby." "I was also 6. His dad chuckled. "You always had a good memory. Figured you might have remembered something." "Where did my sister and her husband, or whatever he is, run off to? I figured they wouldn't let their little girl out of their sight." "He's not her husband yet," his dad said with a frown. "Said they didn't need a wedding ring to know they loved each other. It ain't right, but what am I going to do about it?" Since Brody thought it was none of his dad's business what Brecken and Griff did or did not do about the whole marriage thing, he didn't reply. His dad was a good guy. He was just old school through and through. Griff had to cover at the bar, and Brecken had to run up to the school to do something. It's about time the two of them got out. They've been cooped up in their house, only letting people see this little doll if they visited at their house. Said they didn't want their daughter exposed to germs. I'm surprised they brought her over here to let me watch her. I'm surprised you were their first choice. Oh, I wasn't. Annie and Wyatt are having some sort of Christmas thing out at Sophie's Haven, and Cece and Brant are in Oklahoma City with his mom. Brant? Brody asked. If you came home more often, you'd be more familiar with all the new folks in town, his dad muttered. Funny, I didn't know Parker, Oklahoma ever got any new people in town. His dad frowned at him. Brant's the nurse practitioner who took over running the clinic when Henry Harvey retired. He left for a spell, but came back when no one else could put up with the old crazies in this town. Why'd Cece go with him? Are they an item or something? Oh, yeah, they got together when he helped her work on her gym. What gym? His dad scratched his head. How long have you been gone this time, son? Brant tried not to roll his eyes. I don't know. I think I was here when Sophie died. My God, no wonder you don't know anything. That was 3 years ago. So I haven't been home in a while. I'd say 3 years is more than a while. A lot has happened. Parker is small and all, but time don't stand still. I know, Dad. I've just been busy, his dad finished for him. Trust me, I know how busy you are. I just don't really know what exactly makes you so busy. Brant shrugged his shoulders. He wasn't about to tell his dad how unbusy his job was currently making him. So tell me about everything that's been happening since I've been gone. Cece opened the gym I was telling you about just down from her beauty shop. The town held an auction for eligible bachelors to raise the money for her to get it up and running. It is really top of the line. I bet it's as fancy as the one you use in New York City. How do you know I go to the gym? Those biceps don't make themselves that big, his dad said. Besides, what else would you do without knowing anyone up there? And that was why he avoided talking about his life with his dad. His dad couldn't picture Brody as anything but the nerdy kid with glasses who preferred being on the academic team to playing any sport. The loner who kept to himself, waiting for the day he could leave his hometown. Never mind Brody turned himself into a wealthy, successful businessman living in a big city. A man who frequented parties, had dozens of friends, slept with as many women as he wanted. At least he used to. Funny how things changed when he found himself hitting rock bottom. I have a lot of friends in New York, Dad, he said, refraining from running his temples. Had, the obnoxious voice in his head said. You had a lot of friends. But yes, I did go to the gym. Well, if you want to keep in shape, check out Cece's gym. Like I said, it's top of the line. Since you said you might be staying for a while and all. How long exactly is a while? I'm not sure yet. Just tell me about the rest of the changes in town, why don't you? Brant wasn't about to go into detail, not just yet. Well, Annie and Wyatt got hitched. I know, I saw the pictures they posted on social media. Did you know they turned that farm of hers into a little zoo and sanctuary for abandoned animals? That I didn't know. Yep. People come from all around to see them. She's got all sorts. Tigers, llamas, emus, kangaroos. Even has a petting zoo with all those Disney animals of hers. And a gift shop. It's a big deal. Brings lots of people to town. Sounds like it. Let's see. I know there's more. Oh, Bert and Kelda are together. So are Marty and Madge. And his dad's front door opened. Where's my little Miss Sunshine? The woman standing in the doorway stopped when she saw Brody sitting on the couch. Hello, she said hesitantly. How are you, Brody? Brody knew it was rude to stare, but she couldn't help it. She looked familiar, but he couldn't place where he knew her. I'm Griff's mom, she said. Brody then recognized her. She was the woman who was in the stands for every one of her son's ball games. The woman who raised her son as a single mom when she kicked her drunk of a husband out the door. She was also the daughter of Crazy Kelda Van Berg and Brecken's baby's paternal grandma. Of course, nice to see you again, Miss Stevens. Griff's mom waved his way. Oh, please, call me Susan. Are you the reason Griff and my sister let my dad watch their baby? Susan smiled. It might have been one of the reasons. People tend to trust grandmas more than grandpas for whatever reason. Don't really understand it myself since I raised 2 kids on my own, his dad complained. To Brody's shock, Susan walked over to his dad, leaned up on her tiptoes, and placed a kiss on his lips. Hey, honey. Honey? What the hell? Griff's mom and his and Brecken's dad? Wow. Now don't get that look on your face, his dad said, pointing a finger Brody's way as he wrapped his arm around Susan's waist. What look? Brody asked, trying to act nonchalant. I don't have a look. You have a look that says you can't believe I'm with Griff's mom when Griff and my daughter are an item. It's not like me and Susan are going to have any babies to confuse Griff and Brecken's babies, so don't say anything. Didn't plan on saying a word, Brant replied. He never knew when it was going to happen in his small town. Welcome home, Brody, he thought. Welcome home. Karen Posey arched her back and groaned. She had been sitting at her desk in her classroom for what felt like forever. When she looked at the clock, however, she realized it had only been 45 minutes since the last bell had rung. Thanksgiving break had officially begun. For most teachers, having the entire week off and then going just 3 more weeks before having 2 more weeks off for Christmas was one of the perks of being a teacher. For Karen, it just meant time alone in her quiet house, counting the hours until she could go back to work and be around people again. Karen heard a knock on her door. Brecken, one of her good friends, one of her only friends, if Karen was being honest, peeked her head around the corner. What are you doing here so late? Don't you know that teachers love to leave as soon as the bell rings for Thanksgiving break? I don't know why they just don't let us have the entire rest of November and all of December off. December is a total waste for learning anything. I just needed to finish up some things, Karen replied. I'm getting ready to leave right now. The more important question is, what are you doing here? I thought you were supposed to take off for the year. Brecken shrugged her shoulders. I just had to get some things ready for next semester. What? I told Griff I couldn't take off again. I love my baby more than anything in the world. I do. But I'm just not a stay-at-home mom. I'll go crazy. I'm having a hard enough time staying out until after Christmas, but Griff insisted. I need interaction with people who don't puke on my shoulder when I burp them or cry for hours at a time in the middle of the night. I'm not going to say I'm not that unhappy about your decision. I've really missed having a buddy to eat lunch with, Karen replied. I got lonely eating by myself this semester. I told you, you need to branch out and talk to more people. I don't know why you're so closed off. If everyone got to know you like I do, they'd love you. Promise. Karen shook her head. She remembered a time when she had many friends, hosting parties, girls' nights, shopping trips. But those days were long gone. It saddened her to think about it so much she tried her best not to. Much like she tried not to get close to anyone in her new life. Too bad Brecken had wormed her way into Karen's life with the determination of a bulldog. Still, there were some secrets Karen could never share, no matter how close she became to anyone. You know how shy I am, she replied instead. I would just rather keep to myself. It was Brecken's turn to shake her head. Suit yourself. First lunch is on me when we come back, though. Karen grinned. I'm holding you to it. Brecken tapped the doorframe. Don't stay too late. I won't. I'm heading out right after you. Promise. True to her word, a few minutes later, after her friend left, Karen donned her coat and headed to her car in the parking lot. Yesterday it had been 70 degrees and sunny. A cold front had blown in overnight, dropping the temperature to 32 with a wind chill of 17. No matter how long she lived in the state, Karen didn't think she'd ever get used to Oklahoma's crazy weather that changed as much as its wind blew. Pushing the door to the school open, Karen bowed her head to the bracing wind and pulled her coat tighter around her. She was really glad she parked right in front of the school this morning. It only took her a few minutes to get home. One perk of living in a small town was everything was in such close proximity. Quickly heading into the small bungalow she rented from Mason, the man who owned the marina at the lake, Karen took a deep breath and shut the door. Taking her coat off and placing it on the coat rack by the front door, she headed into the kitchen to make herself some peppermint tea. As soon as her Keurig spit out the last drop, Karen headed into the small living room and plopped down on her sofa. Taking a drink, she looked around the space. Same worn brown sofa and couch that were in the house when she moved in. Chipped wooden tables next to them. Not one picture hung on the wall. No trinkets adorned the mantel or end tables. A person walking into her house would never guess she lived in Parker, Oklahoma for almost 7 years. It was the way Karen wanted it. No past to haunt her, no future to look forward to, just taking things day by day. It was the way she'd been living for so long she'd forgotten what it meant to look forward to things, to what might become. Mindlessly, she turned on her television and opened one of the many recordings she had of house hunters on HGTV. You're making a mistake if you choose that one, Donald, she said. The closets are too small. Apparently, Donald didn't agree. He chose The Town Craftsman against Karen's advice. The ending of the show, featuring Donald and all his friends gathered around his granite-topped island in the open living room kitchen area, eating fruit and drinking wine. It'll be nice now, Donald. Just waiting until boyfriend Kyle moves in and wants to share that tiny closet. Draining her teacup's contents, Karen stood up and walked toward the miniature Christmas tree she had centered on the sofa table in front of her picture window 2 days ago out of sheer boredom. She never put the Christmas tree up until after Thanksgiving before. But being the operative word, before, her life was a far cry from where it used to be and would never be that way again. So it didn't really matter when she decided to take out the Christmas tree. Taking a red bulb out of the box sitting on the table, she placed one and then another on the tree, finishing quickly. Looking at it, she smiled a sad smile. It wasn't the massive tree from her past, but it still had red bulbs. At least something from her old life could remain the same. What few were left, anyways.